Um, there's a connection between the Republican political views and skepticism about the COVID-19 precaution, um, such as mask mandates and vaccine passports. It is clear but not intuitive. While not all unvaccinated people are Republicans, but nearly half of the Republicans have yet to receive even a single shot because you know how stupid and retarded they are, according to a Kaiser Family Foundation poll from late July. Republicans also make up the largest share of opposition to mask mandates in schools and public places, the vaccine mandates at work, and vaccine passports to use services and businesses. And the Republican politicians have led the charge against these ideas anyway. The reasons for this are not obvious, but before the current pandemic, the vaccine skepticism was not disproportionately common among Republicans. The Republicans are not less likely to get sick and die from the coronavirus. And as conservative vaccine champions like to note, the current vaccines were largely developed during Trump's squatting in the White House. One way to explain the right's resistance to precaution is anti-government sentiment, but as somebody had wrote back on Thursday, the description doesn't really fit that narrative, because enforcing bans on mask mandates and vaccine requirements often requires government to flex its muscles, nor is it quite right to call this simply a manifestation of anti-science Republican views. Although the resistance to precautions include a dangerous strain of the COVID-19 denialism and vaccine nonsense, many of the debates on responding to the pandemic are more about the risk calculations. But instead, the best way to think about the Republican opposition to COVID-19 precautions might be as another manifestation of the surging feeling that the American conservative movement that it represents an embattled minority that needs to use the power of government to defend its independence. The public opinion consistently shows the majority support for mask mandates and vaccine requirements for several states, all of them that are Republican-led, have prohibited them. The minority's insistence on opposing masks and vaccine privileges, and basically the individual rights of Americans who don't want to take the steps over those of the collective mass of their compatriots who don't want themselves or their loved ones to get sick. Although it might come as a surprise from reading any news coverage, Americans actually broadly agree on many COVID-19 precautions. An Axios Ipsos poll that was released Tuesday finds that 69% of Americans support the mandatory masking in schools, and 64% back the mask requirements in public places. More than 55% of the respondents support the employer vaccine mandates, similar to a Gallup poll 52% that was released on Wednesday. Other surveys have found even a larger backing that comes in the context of 7 and 10 different American adults that have already been fully vaccinated, a figure that falls short of herd immunity but represents, as Errol Edwards-Levy notes, an astonishing degree of the consensus for contemporary America. Perhaps that's precisely why the minority has been so noisy and so effective. Videos of the angry parents berating the school officials who are considering mask mandates have gone viral. Governors and legislators in several states have blocked anti-COVID measures. 8 states: Arkansas, Arizona, Florida, Iowa, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, and Utah, all of them with Republican trifectas, have forbidden the mask mandates. According to the Pew State Line Project, some of these bans are currently being litigated. The website Ballotpedia has tallied 20 states with some sort of ban on vaccine requirements, all of them Republican-led. The Axios Ipsos poll found only 44 and 40% of Republicans are in favor of school and public masking and the public mask mandates, respectively. Like other political questions today, views about the COVID-19 restrictions are not only divided by party but also contain little middle ground. The Gallup poll, which found 52 to 38 support for the employer vaccine requirements, also supported that the 2/3 of the respondents held their position strongly. The gap between what the public overall wants and what its noisiest members demand in opposition is not new. Last spring, as states across the political spectrum hastened to loosen the initial pandemic restrictions, people pointed out that the public was strongly supportive of the existing measures. The small portion of the population have repeatedly succeeded in imposing their own will on the majority, and they may have to help to explain that theory, which was documented by somebody named David Frum, that some vaccinated people people now feel toward their fellow Americans who are not taking the similar cases and not taking the similar care, basically, for this. National polls, though, may not tell the whole story. but in some conservative enclaves, most residents oppose the COVID control measures, and they don't want to reject them in their own in their own communities. But when local governments in red states have attempted to impose masking or other restrictions, the Republican-led state governments have frequently preempted them. They aren't just giving local officials a choice, about whether to comply or not. They're ensuring that they cannot basically comply. This inverts the typical pattern in the democratic polity. Usually laws and dictates emerge from the popular opinion. Here, the Republicans are turning to government as a force to impose their will in situations when they have already lost the battle for popular opinion. The fight for COVID-19 echoes across previous battles over preemption, such as gun regulation, transgender bathrooms, and immigration enforcement. Donald Trump thrust minority rule into the center of the Republican Party when he was elected squatter in 2016 with Russia's help. But he has always purported to represent the true consensus of authentic Americans. Silent minorities are, it turns out, just minorities. When he was defeated in 2020 by an even larger popular vote margin as well as Electoral College, his reaction, supported by many members of his party, was to attempt to have the votes thrown out and to allow the minority to override the popular will. Now, some Republicans had bucked Trump on his blatant attempt at election subversion, but the party as a whole remains firmly counter-majoritarian. Representative Liz Cheney and Senator Moscow Mitch, for example, were both critical of the January 6th attempted coup, but they have eagerly defended the Republican-led efforts to introduce anti-democratic state election laws that would facilitate minority rule and enable the future election subversion. Moscow Mitch has also wielded the filibuster prolifically, a minority rule tactic par excellence, even blocking a bipartisan commission to investigate January 6th. Many observers have interpreted the support for Donald Trump, which I don't understand why, but even among those unlikely to concretely benefit from his policy positions, as a gesture of resentment. They are angry at someone like the elite Democrats, the government, the establishment, for telling them how they ought to live their lives. But Trump might not materially improve their position, but is willing to stick it to those groups, and if that requires anti-democratic means, so fucking be it. The current counter-majoritarian resistance to masks and vaccine mandates emanates from the same feeling. Many conservatards are tired of being told how to live by the majority, and they want to live exactly as they please, even if that means they fucking die, and even if that means making other people sick along the way, so fucking be it. So if you like the video, give the video a like and subscribe to my channel RBW King, and also hit the notification bell so that you'll be notified when a new video comes out, and thanks for listening.